Hello and welcome to the Smart Connector Group. We're live here with an amazing guest tonight, Yinka Ewuola. Welcome, Yinka. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So Yinka and I have known each other for a while. She's been very active on my a WhatsApp group. We've been following one another on LinkedIn. She does amazing things working with female entrepreneurs. That's her particular niche. She's a business coach. We're going to get right into that. But obviously, we've got two women here for you tonight. One of them's black, one of them's white. So what I thought we could talk about is business a white man's world? So we're going to get into that tonight. Love to hear your comments. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Yinka, and let's get started. Tell us about you, first of all. How did you get to do what you do now? And, what is it you love about it? And yeah, everything.
Okay, well, thank you so much. As I said, Jane, it's really awesome to be here. My business journey has a number of really interesting bus stops, as I like to call them. So I started my professional career in banking. So I was working in the city in London after my degree. And I'll never forget, first day in this brand spanking new investment bank. And this awesome guy who was head of the department regionally came on stage and said, "Oh, welcome to name of said bank, and welcome to investment banking, the industry where you don't know your children, but you get to know your grandchildren." And I was like, and everybody laughed, and I just, in my mind, I was like, no. That was literally my response. I mean, and I get it. Bankers are a really interesting breed, and they are definitely the originators of the sleep when you're dead hustle craziness. But yeah, he wasn't joking. And I, in my mind, I was like, that's not the kind of life I want. That's not true to my values of, family. And so, yeah, I said, I'm going to be here, but I'm not going to be here for that long. So even as I was entering that part of my career, I knew I wasn't staying for very long.
Yeah.
And then my mother, she was diagnosed with breast cancer very suddenly. It was a big surprise. No one in her family had it. And she was running a business at the time. And I stepped out of that banking career to support her because I was watching her leaving chemotherapy to go and service clients in her business. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, you only get one mom. And, the fact is that when my mom is an amazing person. She has supported, I would say hundreds, but it's probably more accurate to say thousands of kids and families and people. Like, whenever you need her, she's always there. And so I was minded that, she needs help in her business now. And yet the support that she needs isn't there. And she's having to go and service clients. And I was like, she needs time to focus on her health. And she's literally having to choose between what felt like her health and her wealth or her money and her life. And I was like, that is not a choice that I can allow her to countenance without doing something about it. So, yeah. So I stepped out of my banking career and I didn't know about business. I knew a lot, but business wasn't one of them. So yeah, I stepped out, I learned on the job. I was learning how to do, VAT and marketing and sales and product development, everything. And, her business is great. She's great. She, kicked cancer's butt, went climbing up Mount Kilimanjaro to celebrate 10 years free of cancer. But as I was supporting her business and, her business is super successful and, she's gone on to do amazing things in her market, other women, I kept seeing the same trend of women being supportive, but not being supported. And so I was like, okay, I spent, 6 figures going to learn from the best in the business. And a lot of that advice was by men for men. And they'd tell you about their secret formula and their magic mechanism for
Yeah.
all for one easy payment in a number ending in 7. And I was like, they're not telling us the full story, but also this doesn't apply effectively to my life at the time. As a, I was a young, very young mom. I'm not such a young mom anymore, but I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids. I've got a husband. I've got, I'm a school governor. I've got all these other things going on. What they weren't telling us when they were giving us all of these tools and tips is that the work that they're proclaiming is the work of one is underpinned by the wife at home effect.
Oh, yeah.
Who was like, dealing with the kids and doing the dinner and all of that fun-filled stuff. But also just that actually it's a very different mental runway that we get as women when we are, learning in those spaces. And that again, a similar situation where I was, I went out we were at a business conference and all the guys, we had a break, all the guys ran out to go and get croissants and stuff. And all the women ran to the bathroom and began to ring home and check on homework and granny's medication and what's the dog doing and all of these kinds of things. And it just, we're in the same physical space, but we weren't in the same mental space.
Yeah.
So my business now is designed to look at a woman's real life and enable her to have the business of her dreams and the life of her dreams. And I say that it's to help women build thriving and profitable businesses while living full, fab and nourishing lives so that they don't have to make that choice between their health and their wealth or their money and their life.
Yeah. And you touch on something that is really, really important and something that a lot of women know, but don't actually talk about a lot, because obviously the topic of this conversation is business, a man's world. And I know because I have a business in property as well as an education business. So in property development, so I work with high net worth investors and I find them, development opportunities. I'm a connector in that respect. That whole business is very, very, very male dominated. And it's basically all about it's founded on women being at home and actually taking care of everything, taking care of, the kids, the house, the admin, the everything. And, yes, fitting in a business of their own if they can fit it in. But, the whole premise is basically support the man, and I meet and I have met a lot of men throughout my career who have that incredible, unswerving support, just amazing support from their wife or, usually their wife. Yeah. But I haven't met many women that have the same.
And what I would say is I'm not mad at that at all. Because I'm someone who really genuinely believes in equality, I think every woman should have the right to choose. And if it's your choice to, stand by your man and help him, run, do your thing. Like, I will cheer from the rooftops if that's what you want to do. But the fact is that if it isn't what you want to do, or you're not in a position to be able to do that, and let's be frank, in many households, in many 2-parent households, the wife, whether she is a financial contributor, even up to a primary or sole breadwinner, is still often also the primary caregiver.
Yeah.
She's definitely the life admin person. She's almost certainly the one who's remembering to buy the birthday cards for all the kids and the in-laws and the parties.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so it's all of that is still, as much as every individual house and household is separate and distinct, the fact is that there is also social pressures and there's also social norms. And so there is a weight that comes along with being a woman. And, I'm really strongly stress this. It is not a disadvantage, but it absolutely is different. And what I was finding is that nobody was catering to the difference. Every woman out there, I'm wholeheartedly believe every woman out there can build a business as big as she wants it to be.
Yeah.
But the question is, can she walk the same path as a guy with, you know, the same age, and my answer is probably not, because that's not the reality of her life. So let's
Yeah.
find a different route, definitely a better vehicle, and a more more scenic, but ultimately, by recognizing and celebrating our differences, that's how women get to win in business. The
Yeah.
problem is that the path that's been created and the path that is celebrated, lauded, is the path for the guys. And while that is, you know,
Mm.
and I will say again here, in light of your introduction, that's a very Western approach to business. Because if you come and have a look at the African continent, or you look at the Asian continent, commerce is the future of commerce is female, 100%. Every market, every industry is dominated and you know, proliferated by amazing women. Women are the heart of African commerce. And so
Right.
it's really, you know, the concerns and challenges that we have here in the West are different, and you know, but it's predicated on a completely different history when we look at commerce and business, you know, on the African continent and the Asian continent too.
That's a very, very interesting global perspective. And obviously, my podcast has a global audience, Yinka. So I'm big in Ghana. I'm definitely big in Ghana. So,
Hi,
you know,
Ghana, our
yeah, hi,
Ghanaian
Ghana.
friends. Hi, Ghana.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
So,
down the road and round the corner. Well, not quite down, but yeah, I'm over in Nigeria. But yeah, you can't go to, you know, the biggest markets: Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, full of women doing amazing, literally the engines of the economy, but also sending their children to school, you know, paying healthcare, you know, contributing massively to society. And yet, you know, and they're still going, as I said, they still remain primary caregivers. And so it isn't this idea of is business a man's world? No, absolutely not. And it can't be a white man's world. Only, you know, only 3% of the population of the world are white anyway. So
oh, really?
yeah,
I didn't know that
it's
statistic.
not very much at all.
Okay. So, so what's happened then here in the developing world? You know, you say that in Africa, women are powerhouses. You know, they are the driving force behind a lot of businesses. I know, obviously, in Asia, particularly China, India, and so on, a lot of those developing countries, women are very, very smart, very savvy. They are getting their act together. They're building businesses. What's actually look, I mean, I know that there's plenty of successful female entrepreneurs over here, but there are also many thwarted female entrepreneurs who are standing behind their man unwillingly and just wishing that they could have a break and actually build a business. But it's not happening for them. So let's kind of try and untangle all of that and find out what's actually going on. Is it something to do with us being a little bit too privileged, you know, in this country, for
I think
example?
I think there are a number of things that have happened. I think first of all, you know, when we think back in terms of history and things like that, so I believe it's either Earl Nightingale or Napoleon Hill. One of them is credited for you know, developing the concept of the mastermind.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which is, I probably know, and actually, when you look back in history, the first recorded masterminds were actually the African queen. Well, their titles were Kandakes. But they were the queens of the states, you know, Mali and you know, ancient, thousands of years old, and they would call the other queens into a forum, and they would discuss, and they would, you know, agree treaties, and so thousands of years before some random white dude was credited with this meeting, they were
Yeah.
having it, yeah, and so what I described there is a rewriting and a male washing and a whitewashing
Ah,
of history.
yeah.
And it's not the first time, it's not the last time, it's a common theme that people, you know, where, you know, those in control of media, those in control of spaces that have the opportunity to replicate and further and amplify voices, they like to create things in their own image. They like to be credited. There's a lot of ego in all of us. But when you have the power and the opportunity to write a history that makes you look and feel good, then a lot of that has happened over and over again. So when I speak about, and I talk about this a lot, how different commerce and businesses for African women versus Western women. I'm a Nigerian woman. I live in London, so I have a little bit of understanding what's going on. My sisters, mothers, friends, aunties in Nigeria, that what they're doing and what they know what it, because there is an environment and there is an expectation that is set around what they're capable of, and it's not remarkable for them to be brilliant at business, because every other woman they know is brilliant at business. And so the fact is that when when the stories of the successes are not told, all of a sudden our understanding and knowledge of what's happening with women in this part of the world, they talk a lot about suffrage and the feminist movement, and I'm like, that was not that long ago. That was before I was born, but it's still in the last century. But actually the history of women kicking butt in commerce is thousands of years old, and female leadership is thousands of years, and so, but if those stories are not told and those voices are not amplified, then the voices that are and like I said, you would be amazed how few people in this world are actually Caucasian. It's not as many as you think, but it's because our media and the stories that we're told and the successes that are amplified and what the version of the world that we're shown, it looks like that. But the world is a much more diverse in every possible way place than we can possibly imagine. But that's the reason why diversity is so exciting and important, not for tick boxes, not because we all want to talk about race or color or anything like that, but because we get to solve the world's biggest problems, and we get to meet the needs of our customers by making sure that we hear their voices and we reflect their needs and we give them what they need. And that, that's what excites me about that part of the world. So.
Oh, I love that. That is just, amazing and very eloquently put as well, Yinka. So we've got a question here. I was, by the way, while you were talking, I was thinking about Cleopatra, because I have an arts background. Let's just say, I grew up studying Shakespeare, like really, really intensely. So that's my kind of background in history. And one of my favorite plays was Antony and Cleopatra. And of course, Cleopatra was the queen of all time, the Egyptian queen. She was the most powerful figurehead at that time. So while you were talking, I was thinking, you were talking about African women, and I was thinking about Cleopatra and the eulogies in, obviously Shakespeare is incredible anyway, but the eulogies in Antony and Cleopatra to Cleopatra, I mean, I can still remember them today. They just sent shivers down my spine. It was like, oh, wow, this is just amazing.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. But then, and that's the thing. So do you think she was a shrinking violet? Do you think she was asking anyone for any permission? And as well, it makes me smile, because, I mean, the longest reigning monarch is the Queen of England. And for all of, there's a lot going on in the royal family at the moment. But the fact is that she also walks this balance of female leadership, and it's not strange to us even here in the UK to have it, but we're just ignoring it and we're making it seem like it's remarkable. She's been on the throne longer than most of us have been alive, and yet we're like, where are we going to find female leaders? Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, I've got to say that I met the Queen. In fact, I spent a whole day with the Queen, which was really quite amazing, because I was head girl of my school. And I had to present her with a prize, and I had to take her around the school and all sorts of things. So me and the Queen go back a long way, Yinka. Yeah. So fantastic. Okay, we've got some questions here. Who were the most ruthless female monarchs is one of the questions. So look, there have been plenty of ruthless female monarchs, and I think we should start listing them. So I think, definitely, Marie Antoinette, who famously, while the French peasants were starving, said, "Let them eat cake," which was very, very ruthless and very nasty of her.
What I'd say again, I'm not so much an expert on female monarchs per se, but I would say that in a world where the expectation was that the leader would be male, any of them, from the Queen of Sheba to Cleopatra to the ancient Kandakes. There's a queen in our history in Nigeria called Queen Amina Bakwa. And she is incredible. And she's, again, one credited with the creating and development of metallic armor long before the Romans did it, like thousands of years before them. And so, again, I would say that in an environment where the expectation that leadership would be male, I reckon those female leaders and monarchs would probably have a little bit of ruthlessness going on about them all. So
absolutely. And when you said that is exactly what I was thinking. So Richard is saying, how many people did Cleopatra get rid of? Well, I cannot give you an absolute number, but Yinka is absolutely right. With power sometimes comes ruthlessness, and just because women are supposed to be sweet and kind and kind of look after their families and so on, doesn't mean that they cannot be single-minded. And in fact, in some instances, that can obviously tip over into ruthlessness. Of course, women can be ruthless, just as men are ruthless. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, absolutely. And I think that ultimately, one of the reasons why I love working and focusing on women in business is because of the types of businesses that they run, the way that they, that their focus, because women are neurologically whole-brained. I love the fact that they consider a lot of options. They bring in people. I loved when I was invited to the Smart Connector podcast. I was like, yes, because it's definitely a very female focus. But at the same time, once they have that focus and they have that, that business that they want to do that makes the world a better place, then actually they get pretty single-minded and pretty ruthless about ditching everything else. And so I completely agree with you that there does need to be that focus. You have to follow one course until success. Otherwise, you're never going to get anything done.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's totally, I think, a sort of male construct that women are weak. I mean, look, there are weak men and there are weak women. There are strong men and there are strong women. And that's, really underneath it all, underneath our skin, underneath our gender or whatever, there are people who have learned to be strong. And there are people who have clung to being weak. That's what I think. So, and that's without any kind of judgment. I mean, look, everybody has had different experiences, haven't they? So not everybody has it in them to be an entrepreneur and to take risk and to, assume a leadership position. But some of us are born for that role, and that's okay, male or female. We all need to be able to fulfill our potential and actually follow the course that feels good for us, don't we, Yinka?
No, absolutely. I'm just trying to deal with my tiny human who's come to join but has decided to leave us now. So, but you're absolutely right about the need to recognize that we apologies.
Does he want to be on the podcast? He got something to say?
He really does. But
bring him up. We'll ask him a question.
But no, as you were saying, that the thing that makes me laugh about the way that stereotypes work is, women are, women are people, men are people, and so they come in every shade. They, they're not good, they're not bad, they're people, they're adults, and so allowing them making space for them to do whatever the hell they want is something that people still find really difficult to understand. So, but yeah, women are adults who are sentient and can make their own choices, irrespective of what others think they should be. So yeah, fair play.
Okay, so we're getting some good comments here. I prefer strong women. Well, that's good, because that's very good. Otherwise, you
They
probably would have
prefer you
tuned out a
too.
long time ago. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's get onto this issue of race. So Yinka, I've been running a room on Clubhouse for some time now. So it's called Stand Out for Your Difference, Rise Above the Noise. I'm actually taking a break in August, but I've been dipping into different rooms on Clubhouse. And at one point, somebody said to me, your Clubhouse room is very white. And, or no, it wasn't even my room. It was somebody else's room that I was guesting in. They said, well, look, you've got all these white privileged, females. You're not really representing, women as a whole. So I'd love to get into this topic of diversity and inclusion and so on. Do you feel that there are things that people are just not seeing, like white people, white women or whatever are just not seeing? Or do you think that, look, basically it is a level playing field and you just got to step up? I mean, where are you on that spectrum?
I think that the expectation that it would be a level playing field is naive.
Okay.
I don't think the playing field is level. I don't expect it to be level. I don't care if it's level. I literally don't. And I say that completely and utterly cognizant of the number of privileges that I have as a woman who lives in the Western world, who lives in a country where there is a rule of law, who lives in, a place where I feel safe. I have education, I have a degree. I'm not, classified as disabled in any way. I have a number. I have, sound mental health. I like to say so. I like to feel so. And so, but these are massive privileges that enables me to be able to say what I have just said, which is no, the playing field absolutely isn't level. And anyone who thinks that it is doesn't understand the game. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be level. And that therein lies one of, my kind of core tenets in the work that I do. The field isn't level, but it doesn't need to be, because we are not, as people, equal. Rephrase, it's not that we're not equal, we're not the same, we're not built the same, we don't have the same skills, talents, needs, opportunities, we don't have the same aspirations. And so as a result of that, my one of my really big mantras is difference doesn't need to mean disadvantage. Your path is 100% going to be different to mine. How you show up in the world is different to how I show up in the world. The fact that we don't have the same journey means that we won't have the same start point. That doesn't mean that if we had the same aspiration to the same end point, that doesn't mean that it isn't achievable by both of us. It means that our journeys will be different. It means our paths will be different. It may even mean that the effort we need to put in will be different. But ultimately, if I'm starting from 0 and you're starting from 100 and we're trying to get to 200, I know that I need to put in 200's worth of effort to get there. I don't see what value I would have looking at you going, oh, that's not fair. She's already got 100 like ahead of me. I focus on my journey. I get to my 200. And so from that perspective, it absolutely is not an equal playing field. If I, as a Black woman, walk into a bank, 100 of us will walk in and 3 of us will get funding for our businesses. If we were a white woman, that would be, I think 17 or 20. And if we were a white dude, it'd be 60. So to say that the playing field is level, as I said, anyone who believes it's level doesn't understand the game that's being played. But the issue is, what do you then focus on? Because, I love a recent quote, I believe it's I can't remember, Maya Angelou, no, Toni Morrison maybe, but she said that like racism serves as a massive distraction because you spend all your time proving cases in a court that there is no case to be won. You know, they'll pull out another thing that you need to prove. Oh, they say you have no language, so you spend 10 years proving you have a language. They say you have no culture, so you spend 10 years, you know, proving that you have culture. I don't care what any of that is about for me personally. As I said, the whole reason I'm passionate about diversity is about the opportunity to innovate, the opportunity to, you know, sort out the planet, to, you know, deal with poverty and education and all of those kinds of things. You know, is it even? No, it isn't. But the fact is that ultimately that will not stop me getting to where I want to go, because I'm focused on my journey, my prize, my goal. And so, you know, does that mean I have to put in more effort than other people's? Yeah, of course it does. But the fact is, I don't know their story either. I made a long list of privileges that I have. I don't have white privilege. I don't have male privilege. I've got a long list of other privileges. There are white people living down the road from me who are poor, who are uneducated, who have mental health issues, who have physical ailment. They have disadvantages that I do not have.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to dwell on what I don't have. I'm going to spend my time focusing on what I do have, and I'm going to spend my time focused on my mission, which is being, you know, raising a tide that lifts all of these female ships. That's my mission.
Do you know, I just love that so much. I mean, everything that you're saying, Yinka, I just like all the neurons in my brain are just kind of going like ping, ping, ping. It's really, really amazing because, you know, when you look at it, if you were to unpack every human being and say, look, okay, let's do some kind of a point system, right? So, you know, your point system. So you had loving parents. Your parents didn't get divorced. You had no physical disabilities. You had no mental disabilities. You know, you didn't move around as a child, so you were able to kind of develop stable relationships, go at the same school, you know, develop that sense of community that comes from being in the same place at the, you know, and staying there. You know, you didn't have poverty. You know, you had enough food to eat. You didn't have to worry about your shoes were too small and your parents couldn't, you know, your mother or whatever, you know, couldn't buy you a pair of shoes that fit. So you know, your toes were kind of getting cramped. You know, just every single thing that happens, they're micro events in a way, aren't they? And those, it's a culmination of those micro events, whether you're black, white, female, male, disadvantaged, wealthy, poor, or whatever. You know, you probably, there would be some kind of scoring system that actually said, you know what, by the time you've got to age 18 or something, you are now in the most privileged 5%, or you're in the least privileged 5%, or you're somewhere kind of in between. But okay, so that's where it is. And as you said, we just got to make the most of it from that point on. And I was actually interviewing. Yeah, I was in. Sorry, you carry on.
I was just going to say we really do. And the thing I feel really strongly about is the fact that we don't know anyone else's journey. We really don't. I'm not, you know, I'm the child of, you know, two incredibly brave people who came to a country. They hardly knew anyone when they arrived. They arrived to the, you know, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish signs. You know, we had, you know, National Front sprayed on our front door, dog poo in our letterbox, window smashed, door smashed, all of that. And that stuff that I remember in my childhood. So it isn't like I'm not expressing these views from a point of view of reading about you know, overt racism in a book. These are things that have genuinely appeared in my life. However, I'm also a wholehearted believer that was an event. What I don't want to do is map that event where someone wanted to victimize me, my family, and us as a group. I'm refusing to allow that to be mapped into a victim identity. I'm nobody's victim. I'm
Yeah.
an adult now. I get to decide what those events mean. I get to decide how I feel about them. I get to decide, you know, what I can do and what to make them. And the fact is that I'm not allowing them any power in my life that doesn't give me forward momentum. It doesn't give me, you know, peace in my soul. And so otherwise the racists have won more than once and they keep winning. And I'm like, you know, they're gone and, you know, doing whatever they're doing with their families or whatever. And so, you know, I'm not going to allow them to live in my head rent free. So what all I can do is really be focused on the good that I can do. But that again comes with making peace with, you know, I'm not one of those people who will say, and you know, I meet people like this all the time who say, oh, you know, racism isn't real, racism doesn't exist anymore, you know, it's, you know, people need to stop making themselves victim. All of that is true, but I don't know anybody else's journey but my own. And so all I can do is make the decisions that I can for me, and to treat people with kindness, and to say, actually, maybe you're making a choice that isn't that helpful for your life, but it's not, you're an adult. I can't tell you what to do. All I can do is what I believe is right for me. And then maybe, just maybe, my results will do the talking and you'll ask me how I got them, then I'll happily tell you. But this idea of trying to create binary expressions, oh, you know, because we have successful Black people, you know, Rihanna was declared a millionaire this week or last week, so clearly racism is over, is naive, if not ridiculous, and just silly.
Yeah, yeah. So we're getting some great comments. So Richard says, I'm autistic and have 3 mental health disorders, and I focus on my ability, not disability. So I
Agree.
think that's what Yinka's really talking about. You know, like we all have strengths, we all have disadvantages, and you know, even I mean, I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I remember once I was watching like a documentary, and it was actually there was some child, and I can't remember exactly where in the world it was. It might even have been South America, or it might have been Africa. I just can't remember. But basically, he was surviving on a rubbish dump. I mean, can you imagine? It's the worst thing in the world. Can you imagine the stench being somewhere like that in a hot country? The smell, the rats, you know, the everything. It must have been absolute hell for him. And he had this big beaming smile on his face. And they said, you know, what do you really like? What's really exciting for you? And he said, Liverpool Football Club. He said, I support Liverpool. and there was this big, like, I support Liverpool. And he'd obviously, you know, there'd been this TV program or that he'd seen or some screen somewhere. And that had given him some kind of hope and some passion. And I just thought that is just amazing. You know, that really touched my heart.
And you make such a powerful, and that's the thing, everybody, you know, whether it's race, whether it's sex, whether it's you know, gender, everybody is going through so much. And you know, as I said, it is, people feel how they feel and have every right to. You know, I am not out here telling anyone what to feel, telling anybody how they should tell their story, but what I can say is that focusing, you know, energy goes where attention flows, or vice
Yeah.
versa. And
Yeah.
so focus, send your energy, send your attention where you want your energy. Focus on what you want more of, and therein lies the opportunity. Because fundamentally, you know, I want to work in a world, I want to create a world, particularly for my children, you know, where success in all colors is absolutely normalized, that where female leadership is obvious and, you know, intentional, and, you know, is just as eventual and inevitable as male leadership. And so that's where I'm putting my focus, and that's what I'm working towards. Like, I do, you know, I'm a woman of faith, you know, I pray, you know, I believe in God, you know, we can have like a conversation about that another time. But the point for me is that the idea of, you know, anti everything, you are adding to the energy, and I'm not in that space of being anti things. I'd rather be pro things. I'd rather be pro people. I'm pro wealth creation. I'm pro, you know, I'd rather put my energy towards building things and creating a legacy that, you know, that is meaningful and is sustainable.
I love that. Well, Yinka, you know, it's been such a pleasure and a privilege to have you share this time with us. We've had some great comments as well. So, you know, people have been very, very engaged by what you're saying. And I think, have to say, from my perspective, I feel as though you are an extremely inspirational woman. And, you know, thank you so much for all those words of wisdom and encouragement and positivity, and, you know, just all of that light that you've shined over everybody tonight. I think it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane.
So, Yinka, first of all, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I'm most active on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me. My name is on screen at the moment, and that's my handle over on LinkedIn, but I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter too. And then websites and things is all at callasuccess.com. If you want to drop me an email, say hello at callasuccess.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again, Yinka. And we'll look forward to hearing more from you as time goes on.
Amazing. Thanks, Jane.